further with Arseniy Yatsenyuk, who joins us from Kiev. He is a former Ukrainian prime minister who served in that office twice between 2014 and 2016. It is excellent to have you on our show. You heard those U.S. defense officials just now. U.S. Defense Secretary saying, when asked repeatedly, what about these tanks that Ukraine so desperately needs, he says that he believes that there is a window of time in which to sort this out before springtime. Do you agree?
Frankly speaking, we need to get these Leopard tanks on a fast track. The quicker, the better. Because, time serves to Russia, but not to Ukraine. Putin's ongoing war, unprovoked and unjustified war, actually has an ultimate goal to take over Ukraine and to undermine the global order and the entire free world. And this poses a threat to everyone, including Turkey. So, in my humble opinion, I believe that we need urgently to get the green light from the German Chancellor to supply Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Because frankly speaking, it sounds weird. On the one hand, everyone decided to supply so-called light tanks that Secretary Austin already named.
Right.
On the other hand, what's the difference between the light tank and the battle tank in terms of Russian perception? It's clear that the entire Western world, the entire free world, is helping Ukraine to restore its territorial integrity. It's helping Ukraine actually to fight for its freedom and independence. So I don't see any kind of difference between either light tank or battle tank. It's all about the fight for Ukraine's lives and for Ukraine's freedom.
While you were prime minister, you saw Russia take over Crimea. In your view, what do you think has been the biggest hindrance internationally to Ukraine being fully prepared for exactly something like this to happen, a wider war?
Here is the thing. In 2014, when I was sworn in as a prime minister, we didn't have any kind of military at all. The former DOD, the chair of the Ukrainian defense ministry, was a Russian citizen and actually the Russian spy. The same goes with the head of the National Security Service. So Russia completely infiltrated Ukrainian military. And for example, at my single treasury account of the government, I had just $10,000 for the entire country. But as of now, we have completely different picture. The West decided to support Ukraine, and the entire free world circled the wagon. Even in 2014, with no military, with no armored force, and with no even possibility to fight against Russia, we managed to survive, and we managed to stop the Russian military. This time, an entire free world is on the right side. And I believe that Turkey is to take the right side too at this particular very crucial juncture of history.
Mr. Yatsenyuk, it's been reported that the U.S. head of the CIA visited Ukraine within the last week to meet with President Zelensky. What can you tell us about what went on in that meeting, if you know?
Well, the media reported that the director of the CIA paid the visit to Kyiv. Let me remind you that this is not the first visit when CIA Director Burns visited Kyiv. And in his preliminary visits, he actually provided intelligence information just before the war, the way how Russia decides to attack Ukraine. So this is a very strong sign that the United States is sharing an information with Ukraine, and I do believe that this is the stage. This is a very crucial stage for Ukraine, where Ukraine is ready for counteroffensive. And for this kind of strong combat operation, we need to get more and more weaponry. And Russia is still regrouping, and I am not in the position to underestimate Russia. This is still a big country with a huge number of population, which can easily deliver this cannon fodder to the front line. So we are to realize that this is a critical juncture, and that this critical juncture, everyone has to close the rank.
Let's say that Germany decides not to send those tanks after all. Will Ukraine still be able to keep up the momentum that it's had?
First, I can hardly imagine how Germany refused to authorize the supply of Leopard tanks to Ukraine. Let me put it this way. We have actually two options. The first one is that Germany itself decides to supply these weapons to Ukraine. On the other hand, Germany has the right to authorize this kind of supply to another 12 EU member states who already have around 2,000 Leopard tanks already deployed in the European Union. So it's in the interest of Germany to provide these tanks, as this war is more than about the war of Ukraine and about Ukraine. This war is about global order and the security of the European Union, including Germany. So my take is that the time will come, and that's not months, as the new defense minister already said. It's about days when Germany is to provide the green light and authorize this kind of decision to supply Leopard tank.
Yeah, this tank business has been going on, the back and forth over will Germany send or won't they, for months now. For them to be giving reasons like they're worried about confronting, or the feeling of confronting, Russia directly on the battlefield, of supplying such heavy weaponry, the risk of escalation, do you empathize with those concerns?
I completely don't buy this kind of narrative of these red lines or whatever, of provoking Russia. Russia, as a P5 member, already provoked an unprovoked and unjust war against Ukraine. And what happened today, because you mentioned Leopard tanks. Leopard tanks is just one part of this big puzzle. Today, we are witnessing an unprecedented unity of the free world. And this combat package that has been already agreed by the allied forces to help Ukraine is a clear and strong sign that the Western world is ready to help Ukraine at this long haul how Ukraine is to defend itself. So going back to your initial question, I don't buy this narrative that the decision to supply to Ukraine any kind of ammunition or heavy weaponry could provoke Russia. No one provoked Russia when Russia decided to wage this terrible and disastrous war against Ukraine.
Former Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks very much.
Thank you.